Hello and welcome back to the Coaches Show here on 90.1 KBPK. Not only is it good to be back, but it's also great to be able to see our men's basketball squad directly behind me. Actually, you know what? Enough about me. Why don't we just get right into our Perry Webster interview? Our theme for today is leadership. So we are here with head coach Perry Webster. And Perry, normally we start off the show and say, how's your team doing? What are you looking for in conference? Let's go away from all that. Last time we talked about legacy. This time we'll talk about leadership. When you have different players on your team, how do you cultivate leaders?
Oh, I think that they cultivate themselves a lot. I don't spend too much time trying to bring a leadership out of a person. I think that some kids are just naturally born leaders, and they kind of the cream kind of rises to the top. And this team we've had a couple leaders actually go down with injuries, and other guys have had to step up with their voice. And this team is led by a lot of different guys. I don't think it's just one guy who's leading. I think it's a lot of different guys.
When you look at the two guys that we talked to the last time, David, RJ, how have they impacted this team so far?
Yeah, well, RJ's injured, so that's the guy, RJ's voice, we miss that. And Dave's just a leader every single day and has done a great job for us. And then, Chaz Hutchison has stepped up with leadership. Ronnie Stapp is experienced and leader, and Kobe Newton is starting to lead. And so it's kind of had to evolve as the season's gone on.
I mean, Coach, when you talk about Ronnie, he was a guy who started off watching your state championship run. Now all of a sudden, he's that guy that you can rely on in conference play. How have you seen him grow?
Yeah, he's come a long way as a player, as a person, as a student. He's had a really good season. He's getting recruited by a lot of different schools at several different levels. He's just a Swiss Army knife for us. He's been a four-man for us. He's been a three-man for us. He's been a two-man, and right now he's a point for us because of the injuries we've been dealing with. So whatever we need out of Ronnie to help us win a game, he'll do. He doesn't care what it is that we need. He just wants to be on the floor and to help give us a chance to do that.
Does it really help you as a coach knowing that you kind of have that floor general that can, we'll say, help manage a team while they're out there?
Yeah, I just having a guy who's not afraid and who's willing to go make big plays, and him and Kobe especially too. Both of them have really stepped up in big moments, handling the ball, making shots, and doing big time things for us.
Just a few moments ago, you mentioned that you don't spend too much time just trying to force leadership out of guys. Do you ever sit back, look at your team about halfway through the season and just go, wow, this is a group of men that I'm proud of?
Yeah, this group especially, you're always proud, but these guys have had several COVID shutdowns. As I said before, the two injuries to the point guards. There's been a lot that's come their way, and it wasn't easy for us. We've been winning games close, and to be 19-1 in the middle of February is pretty impressive. And I'm very proud of my guys, and I'm yearning for more because I think that we've got a lot left in the tank.
How do you call that out of them here coming towards the end of the year?
Yeah, just to make sure they remain focused and understand that we talk about doing certain things since we got together last April. And now that we're close, this is not the time to relax. This is the time to put your foot on the throttle and try to go finish it out, get a league championship, and then go compete for a state championship.
You have Kai on your coaching staff, who was a Fullerton College Hornet at one point. What is his effect on this team morale-wise?
Yeah, he does a great job. He's young and he gets along with the guys, and he puts all the videos and does all the video slicing for us and does a lot of social media stuff for us. And he's just a great person and a valuable role model for the guys. And then Devin Uglin has been a really good addition too, as well as Kai, and they're really both doing a good job. And then the old trusty Tom Gurrell, we should call Tom the mayor. He does a great job for us, and I got a great staff and guys I care about and guys that care about me.
Coach, let's allow you to get back to your guys.
Yeah.
As we continue here on the Coaches Show.
I want to say one thing. We got Fullerton Hornet baseball. We're turning the tide here. Chad Baum, make sure you get out to some baseball games when you get a chance. Go Hornets.
So that was Perry Webster, head coach of the Fullerton College Hornets. We're going to get to some players in just a moment, but before we bring Kobe over to the Coaches Show, we're going to actually take a quick break and take a look at some of the standings and stats from around the Orange Empire Conference to this point in the season. So as we get set to take a look at men's basketball around the state of California, let's not go the entire state yet. Let's start it off with Southern California. We start things off with the Orange Empire Conference standings to this point. Now, keep in mind that not every team has had the opportunity to really have a full slate or a full schedule to this point because a lot of COVID stoppage, in addition to the holidays, kind of getting a mix into whether or not teams can play. So each and every team is more looking at that win percentage rather than how many games behind they are going in towards the end of the season. So as we take a look at the Orange Empire Conference men's basketball standings to this point, we started off with the Fullerton College Hornets. They are currently 10-0, perfect 1,000 win percentage in conference through 10 games played. Now everyone else is spotting around 12 or 11 to 12 games played to this point. Fullerton one behind that, but they have won each of their games in conference and they sit at 20-1 overall, having won each of their last 12 and every game in conference. Directly behind them is Riverside. Now, when you look at RCC, they are one of the most dynamic teams in Southern California in terms of the overall offensive game. As you can see, they're 1,050 points to their credit, 856 given up. But when you look at Riverside, their offense is electric, and they are in the number 2 spot in the Orange Empire Conference, having won each of their last 8 games, and they are 18-6 overall. Now, Irvine Valley and Santiago Canyon are each about within a half a game of each other, 8-4 and 7-4, 667 win percentage and 636, and each of those two teams 16-7 and 17-5. Now, again, when people talk about the Orange Empire Conference being the toughest conference to play in the nation, and not just the state, again, in the nation, you have to look at these top 5-6 teams. You're looking at these teams saying, okay, overall, there is not a losing team all the way down record-wise until you get down to Golden West College. That is 6 straight teams at the top half of the Orange Empire Conference that have winning records. 20-1 for Fullerton, 18-6 for Riverside, 16-7 for Irvine Valley College, 17-5 for Santiago Canyon, 14-9 for Saddleback, and 14-10 for Cypress. So the question is, coming towards the end of the season, or at least the back half of the season, how do these teams kind of decide who goes to the conference, or the playoff tournament at the end of the season? And what I mean by that is that it's going to be those bottom 3 or 4, Santiago Canyon, Saddleback, Cypress, maybe even Irvine Valley, depending on how well they play, that may even get an extra bid into the tournament and the postseason just because of how good they are and the level of competition that they had to play. Again, we'll see how it all ends up finishing off towards the back half of the season. As we take a look at some of the stats for each of these teams, we mentioned Fullerton College being towards the top half of the Orange Empire Conference, leading the conference to this point. But you look at the statistics and you're kind of thinking to yourself, okay, well, they've got to be far and away the leaders in a bunch of categories: rebounding, assists, steals, blocks, points, etc. Well, when you actually get down and look at it, Fullerton College, rebounding-wise, is in the top 4. Turnover-wise, is in the top 5. Steals, top 6. Blocks, top 2. And then points, they're in the top 4 again. So the thing with Fullerton College is not that you're going to look at the stat sheet and go, oh my goodness, this team is just blowing it away in terms of overall individual stats or also team stats, and they do one specific thing that just outpaces everyone. Instead, Fullerton College continues to play close games or dominant games where they will suffocate out another team until they get towards the back half of the game, the final 5 minutes, and that's when Fullerton College starts to pull away. And you'll see Fullerton play different styles of games depending on who their opponent is. So when you look at the rebounding totals, which was something that was really big a couple years ago, the last time the postseason was really held fully throughout the state of California, you have to start things off with Riverside, who is averaging around 40 rebounds per game, and Santiago Canyon, who's sitting around the same pace as well. They are 1 and 2, Santiago 1, Riverside 2. Then Santa Ana, Cypress, and Irvine Valley College, as each of those teams has the opportunity to crash the boards. And especially if you want to look at Santiago Canyon, they do a really good job at cleaning up inside their own half of the court. Now, a few moments ago, upcoming on this show, you will hear from Kobe Newton, who will actually state Santiago Canyon is a team that they look at and they say, hey, we need to measure ourselves according to how well Santiago Canyon is playing. Because Santiago Canyon is able to shoot so well, 47% from the field, and they clean up the defensive glass really well, as it makes them a team that has multiple facets offensively that gives them an opportunity to win, because they can put up shots and make them, and once those shots get put up against them defensively, they make sure that there's no extra opportunity to get points. They're also leading the entire conference in assists at 16.1 after Friday's games finish out. And turnover-wise, they are tied for second in the conference at 13.9. So second fewest in the conference at 13.9 turnovers per game. So that is the standings in the Orange Empire Conference to this point. And when you look at it, again, it's Fullerton number 1, followed by 5 other teams that are really, really solid. And it's going to be interesting to see how this season ends up playing out, and how well these teams in the Orange Empire Conference are able to make a case to go into the state tournament and postseason. Speaking of the state tournament and postseason, let's actually take a look at how other teams are doing in the state of California, so we can kind of measure it up according to how well Fullerton College is playing, not only statistic-wise, but when you look at common opponents. So as we take a look at the state, we'll say rankings, standings, stats, for the teams in the state of California, you got to start things off with the rankings in terms of how well Fullerton College is doing compared to other teams around the state. So, as we go to the CCC MBCA poll, February the 7th is the most recent ranking. Fullerton sits at number 2. San Francisco City College is at number 1. Now, if you go back to January 31st, the previous poll that had come out, Fullerton College was in the same spot. City College of San Francisco, number 1. Fullerton College at number 2. Now, directly behind them is Las Positas College, who is having a really fantastic season to this point. West LA having themselves a little bit of a surgence here in 2022, and Santiago Canyon at number 5. Now, again, for Fullerton College earlier this week, they beat Santiago Canyon. They beat the number 5 team in the state of California, so that's really going to help them in terms of rankings as soon as you get that next opportunity to see a poll released. It's going to be really interesting to see once that poll comes out, because you have that chance to kind of size up the different, we'll say, quality of opponents, competition that they have to face between San Francisco City and Fullerton College. So Fullerton College, again, they beat Santiago Canyon earlier this week as the number 5 team in the state. In San Diego City, as always, that, we'll say, perennial nemesis of Fullerton College ever since Perry Webster joined this program. San Diego City at number 6. Now, Fullerton College has faced them before. The Fullerton College Hornets having success against San Diego City a lot in 2021-22. Colleges of the Sequoias is up next at number 7, with San Bernardino Valley, East LA, and West Valley rounding out the top 10 in the state of California. Now, if you remember, the only loss for Fullerton College to this point was against LA Southwest earlier this season by 2. When you look at the rankings, LA Southwest is sitting at number 17 in the state of California overall. So, yes, that loss does sting. Yes, it would have been nice for Fullerton College to kind of sit there and say, hey, you know, we got over 20 wins and no losses. But LA Southwest, at least when you look at the fact that they did end up taking that loss, it's to a highly ranked team. So Fullerton College gets that credit. And again, earlier this week, you beat Santiago Canyon, and it gives you a little bit more of an edge against the rest of your opponents. Now, as we switch from the rankings over to the current standings around the state of California, we promised Southern California quite a bit earlier, so let's take a look. The Inland Empire Athletic Conference to this point, San Bernardino Valley at number 1 with Mount Sac right behind them. 9-2 and 9-3, so a half game back is Mount San Jacinto of San Bernardino Valley. And as you saw a few moments ago, San Bernardino Valley currently sitting at number 8 in the state of California. So they're having a really nice season to this point. Now the Orange Empire Conference, we mentioned it earlier, Fullerton College 10-0. They are undefeated in the OEC, and Riverside right behind them at 11-2. The Pacific Coast Athletic Conference, San Diego City, again, that success that they continually have continues to roll on. 11-0 in the Pacific Coast Athletic Conference, 20-3 overall. They've won each of their last 11, and they are a full 3 games ahead of Mira Costa. The South Coast North, that's East LA up on top with Mount Sac and LA Trade Tech. Kind of a, we'll say, restructuring of conferences leading to that conference not necessarily having the most teams in it in terms of South Coast North versus South Coast South. But lots of good competition there. 21-4 for East LA, Mount San Antonio or Mount Sac, 17-5. They are the top 2 in that conference, and it's not really all too close. You go 21-4, 17-5, and then drop it all the way down to 3-17. 2-20 and 1-20 for Trade Tech, Rio Hondo, and Pasadena City College. When you look at the South Coast South, Long Beach and LA Southwest, we mentioned LA Southwest just a little bit ago in terms of facing Fullerton College. That was in a tournament at Fullerton College that they ended up beating the Fullerton College Hornets. 16-7 for them. They are second in their conference. Long Beach is leading it at 6-2. LA Southwest 5-3. Compton at 5-3, hanging up there with the top 3 overall. Western State North to this point, Ventura 7-0, Allen Hancock 5-1, and then the Western State South to round out the state of California southern-wise. It's West LA number 1, Citrus right behind them at 9-2, and then Canyons and Bakersfield at 6-5 and 5-5. Now, if we're going to kind of compare Fullerton College to the rankings, we want to take a look at who's directly above them. City College of San Francisco is 12-0 in conference. They're leading their conference, and that's not necessarily a shock. They have 1 loss on their resume. It was to West Valley earlier this season. West Valley is currently ranked number 10 in the state of California, and that was a close game, 73-70, a final that West Valley got that win over City College of San Francisco. In fact, that was Friday, November the 19th, and plain and simple, City College of San Francisco hasn't lost since. It has been a fantastic run for them after getting that win, and over their last 3 games, they have averaged over 95 points per game, which is absolutely incredible to see how well they are doing offensively. They were at San Mateo for a league matchup, a conference matchup, and won that 81-66. Then they played at Canada, 129-42, an absolute blowout for City College of San Francisco, and at Skyline, 86-60. So they've got a matchup against Shabbat later on and Las Positas, which is going to be a huge game coming up on Friday the 18th. Because again, it is City College of San Francisco, Fullerton, Las Positas as the top 3. So if Las Positas can actually get a win on the 18th, that goes really, really far in terms of, we'll say, putting a real big stick into the mud that is the rankings in the state of California. So big matchup there. That's the rankings in the state of California. If you want to look at the overall team stats, one of the biggest things that pops out is something that we just mentioned. It's the points per game that you see in the state of California. It kind of gives you a feeling as to what styles each team is playing. If you go to City College of San Francisco, 94 points per game they are averaging. West Valley at 92, and then LA Southwest at 91. Now, it just seems like over the last few moments, you just kind of hear the same 5 teams kind of rotating in the vernacular here on the Coaches Show. San Francisco, West Valley, Fullerton, LA Southwest, Las Positas. Now, if I could go back to that Fullerton LA Southwest matchup, remember, I said it was a 2-point game. Fullerton ended up dropping it by 2 points, but they held one of the top 3 offenses in the entire state to nearly 30 points less than what they are used to. That's just a testament to show you how good Perry Webster's defense actually is, just how well they're able to shut down other teams. Because again, yeah, they don't get that win, but they still take away the primary options for LA Southwest. 91.7 points per game, drop it all the way down to 69 points that they scored against Fullerton. So again, this gives you an opportunity to look at what the other teams in the states in the state looks like, and it gives you a chance to kind of compare and contrast. Now, if you want to talk about comparing and contrasting and defense for Perry Webster, actually, why don't we hear it from the student athletes themselves? We've got Kobe Newton coming up right here on the Coaches Show, so we get it right back over to the Hornets' Nest as Kobe Newton stands by. So we're here with Kobe Newton, and Kobe, how would you characterize the season to this point?
I would say good. Not exactly where we want to be. We're 19-1, so that could be very misleading in some people's eyes. We've had some close games. That one loss obviously hurt a lot, but I think we've had a good season, but there's been our ups and downs. You know, despite our record, we've had our ups and downs, but overall I'd say good.
What would you say is the one thing that you guys have to work on to this point?
I would say being consistent. A lot of times we come out, we'll have one really good half, and then we'll have one, okay or a bad half. And I think that's what lets teams stay in the game with us. I think any game we've had, 2 pretty good halves. We put 2 good halves together. We've had, marginal victories. So.
One thing about Perry Webster that we talk about all the time on the broadcast is if you can't play defense, you can't play for Perry Webster.
Yeah, absolutely.
What was the defensive intensity like once you stepped foot on Fullerton College campus?
I mean, it's just from the jump. I mean, obviously in the summer he's a little laxed. More of like just open gym, seeing what guys can do. But that first week of August, September, it's implemented into if you don't play defense, you're not going to play. And so defense intensity, that's the number one thing here. If you don't play defense, you're not going to play, just like you said.
How would you describe the type of defense that he has you guys play?
We play, it's a pack line defense. We're really big on being in the gap, being in early recover. Not over helping, and really just staying in front, making guys take tough shots. We're not going to gamble. We're not going to go for steals. We're just going to be solid and make you score over the top of us, over our length, and take tough shots.
One thing about college basketball is oftentimes in a zone defense, what you'll see guys do is they see that first pass, and then they try and over-anticipate that next one towards the corner. How do you guys make sure that you don't kind of get baited into that?
Talking, communication, and just, like we said, we just want to keep everything in front. Going for steals, that's not what we do. We want to keep guys in front. We want to make them take tough shots, even in the zone. We want to make sure we keep the ball in front, and then we sprint out. We're really good at talking and helping guys out if they're late on closeouts and stuff like that. So that's the main thing is communication. Just letting each other know where we're at on the court at all times.
If a team tries to drive past the initial guard, do you guys prefer more to funnel towards the big men or kick it or make them go outside?
I would say a little bit more towards the big men because we have 2 really good shot blockers inside. So, if we do get blown by, we don't ever help out of the strong side corner because then you give up an open corner 3, that's the easiest playing basketball. But, we got Chaz who's 6'9", and we got Tristan who's 6'8". So if we get blown by, that's where we want to push them. We want to push them into those trees and make them score over the top of them, without fouling. And so, yeah, we don't want to ever overhelp. We want to just be in the gap, make them maybe think that we're going to go, but get back to our guy, really.
What we've been talking to Perry Webster about this specific show is leadership. You were already mentioning the talking on the court. Now, when you look at the off the court, how does the leadership here at Fullerton College help you?
As in terms of like players or Perry?
Yeah, players.
Players, we got some good leaders on the team. We got some guys that got good voices, let their voices be heard, let them be known. But there's some guys who are also in their shell, so we got to get them out of their shell. Tristan's one of those guys, but we got guys who are very vocal. Chad's one of those main guys. RJ Banks, who got hurt unfortunately this year, but he was a captain. He's really good at using his voice. So we got a lot of guys who are good at staying in guys' ears, keeping everybody accountable, and just trying to keep everybody together.
When you talk about a team captain, a lot of people just go, oh, the sophomore, that's the guy that we're just going to pick. It's kind of different here at Fullerton College. What was that process like for your team?
It really started in the summer. You could just kind of tell that RJ and David were very vocal. They were very positive all the time, trying to keep guys' morals up and keep guys' spirits up, just talking to dudes over and over. Everybody trusts them too. Everybody trusts David, everybody trusts RJ. They hold guys accountable. And that was really the main thing. It wasn't about who's a freshman or sophomore, because really the only one with any, David and Daniel were here with Ronnie, but Ronnie was really the only one with any type of real playing experience, so it was really just who kind of stood out, trying to keep guys together, hold guys accountable.
When you look at the upcoming schedule, considering that you're already in Orange Empire Conference play, is there one team that you kind of look at the schedule and go, okay, this is how we size ourselves up?
Santiago Canyon, who we just played last night, is a very good team. Riverside's a very good team. Saddleback is a very good team who's been playing well last night. We got a lot of good teams in our conference. A lot of people think our conference is the best conference in the state, which a lot of people wouldn't argue with. But really, we try to focus on ourselves. If anything, we don't really try to compare ourselves to anybody. We just have a belief that every game we go into, we're the better team, and our goal every night is to go out and prove that.
Kobe, thank you very much.
Of course.
Best of luck. So we are here with Gavin Ramirez. And Gavin, when you look at the Orange Empire Conference, just a few moments ago, we were talking with Kobe Newton, and he said this conference is the toughest, if not in the state, in the nation.
It's tough.
What has it been like playing in this conference so far?
It's been great. I came from NAIA up in Montana, so that was tough. But I feel like for JUCO level, this is a really tough conference to be in. So I'm glad to be in it. I love the competition.
When you mentioned the competition, was there anything that kind of surprised you going from NAIA to Orange Empire Conference play?
Yeah, I didn't think it was going to be like this, not going to lie. I thought I was going to come down here and score like 25, 30 a game, but that's not the case. Like, these guys are tough. They can hoop, so yeah.
Everyone always talks about the scoring aspect, whether it be going from AAU into high school, etc. But to play for Perry Webster, you gotta play defense. How has the defensive mindset helped you?
There's two ends to the court. You can't just play offense. You gotta play both. And this guy, if you're not playing defense, he's not gonna play. Simple as that. So you gotta be ready on the defensive end for sure.
Is there a specific, we'll say, aspect of the game that you like to focus on this season?
That I like to focus on? Personally, yeah, I think I can work on my shot a lot. I'm at like 36% right now. I think I can get that up to 40 if I just keep working on my game. After practice, get some extra shots up, so we'll see. That's probably shooting. That's probably what I need to work on.
Some people say, I just put the shots up, I don't care about the percentage, I'll figure that out later at the end of the season. You keep track of your percentage as the season goes along.
Yeah, I feel like it's helpful to know, this is my percent, this is what I need to work on, and I just need to be in the gym every day to get that percentage up. So,
do you ever feel that sometimes it's just that one little tweak in the shooting form, or whether it be the follow through that fixes everything?
After every shot, shoot it. If it's a miss, you got to see if your hands on the correct side of the ball, if it's up low. It's just it all. You got to check it out after every shot. So,
have the coaches been helping you with that shooting form?
Yeah, a couple of them. After practice, like I said, Kaipo over there, we're getting shots up every day, trying to get that shot better. So.
Considering that Kai also is a Fullerton College Hornet as well, has he kind of helped you guys mentally prepare for the type of opponents that you play?
Yeah, he's here every day. He's putting in work with Corey right now. I love that he's helping us out every day. So yeah, he's big time for us. Yeah, he's a good coach, good assistant coach.
Thank you very much. Look forward to the. So that's going to wrap it up for us here at the Hornets Nest and for this week's edition of the Coaches Show. Don't forget, stay right here. Keep tuned to KBPK on YouTube because we've got 50 years of KBPK at Fullerton College. Lots of celebration stuff coming up, lots of audio clips, lots of alumni coming up right here on 90.1 KBPK. So, thanks again for tuning in. I'm Ryan Osborne for our men's basketball squad. You've been watching The Coaches Show right here on 90.1 KBPK.